Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, please? I'd like you to indicate.
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, it's my pleasure welcoming everyone. I know that you must have had a hectic day. My name is Chino Obasi. I'm a brand consultant and brand strategist, and by the grace of God, I'll be the one anchoring this program this evening. And as you know, the theme for this evening's program is titled Doing Right in Our Workplaces. And we have some fine lady and gentlemen who will be doing justice to this topic as to what does it take to do right in our workplaces. Before I go ahead, I'd like to also share briefly what the mission and the vision for this initiative is all about. We are a non-profit and non-political, non-partisan organization. We are non-religious, we are non-tribal. Our vision is the reawakening and entrenching of uprightness in Nigeria. And our mission is to mobilize like-minded Nigerians who understand the fundamental damage that lawlessness and moral decadence have done to our nation, an imperative of reversing it, to join in the development of a movement to join in the movement to initiate a rebirth, new mindsets where every Nigerian sincerely desires to do right, everywhere, every time. As the saying goes, nobody is going to develop our nation for us. We are the ones that will do this by ourselves. So, I'm going to get this started. The questions. What does it take, or what does it mean to do right in the workplace? The number one, it has been said that one of the major challenges of entrepreneurs in Nigeria is getting committed workers. Most workers come to workplace and do every other thing except what they're employed to do. And we have seen companies collapse because of not having the workers with the right attitude. So, how do you get employees to perform optimally at the workplace without supervision? How do we get employees to perform optimally without supervision? This is our number one question. We have among our panelists today, Mr. Wale. Wale, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, my brother. Trust your day went well.
Yes, it did.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, let me start with you. As the intro says, workers in the workplace. How do we get workers to be committed to doing the right things in the office? Can you share, let us know what you do?
Okay.
If possible, share an experience. And then if you think you know what we should do, how we can go about this, please, can you quickly share with us?
Okay, thank you very much. I spent about a quarter of a century in the banking industry. I worked in Guarantee Trust Bank for about 25 years. Before then, I worked at Ernst & Young. I currently serve as a an independent non-executive director at Stanbic IBTC Bank. But I'm passionate about leadership. And in recent times, I must confess, I'm passionate about getting Nigeria on the right path. So I was very excited when you read what this organization is all about. I think to address your question, I think it's a two-way traffic. It involves both the employer and the employee. And the starting point for me is the employer. The employer has to create an environment that encourages people to give their best at the workplace. The employer needs to have core values that are entrenched in that system that will engender proactivity, commitment, and people going above the call of duty. Absolutely important for the employer to do that. The employer needs to have what I would call a discriminatory reward system. And what do I mean? You know, you can't reward both the indolent and the hardworking in the same way and manner. Otherwise, you're encouraging an indolent way of work. There must be clear-cut performance indicators that every staff, from the security man to the man at the highest level in the organization, there must be a good performance management system, and we must have leaders that lead by example. I understand you said you're non-tribal, but where I come from, there's a saying that goes this way, that the horses at the back look at the horses that are riding ahead. When the leaders set the right tone, people will follow suit. People like to copy. You understand what other people are doing. So if we set the right tone at the top, that will be okay. Then to the other bit for me is that the recruitment process has to be very thorough. I worked in an organization at a point where very senior management staff got involved in the recruitment of the lowest level staff. Because you know what? The chain is as strong as the weakest link. So you must have a deep interest in the people that you bring on board. If you have those tools in place and you recruit appropriately, get the right person for the role, you understand, people will do their bit. And you said one should give examples. So I had the opportunity, after working for some years in Nigeria, to be transferred to the UK to work. And I'll tell you the cultural differences. In Nigeria, when we get to work, Nigerians typically, the days where we had newspapers and all those things, will spend almost the first 30 minutes or 1 hour reading newspapers, gisting about what was on TV the day before they get to work. In the UK, people get to work and they hit the tracks immediately, no distractions, cultural differences, and they put in their best. In the UK, they will spend the 8 hours and accomplish what will probably accomplish in about 14 hours in Nigeria. Yet again, that's a cultural issue, but I go back to my previous session, that if the leaders in the organization lead by example, you understand, people will follow suit. If the leaders are committed, if they do their work right, people would love to emulate them. Let me pause at this moment. I hope that has been sufficient to the question you asked. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wale. That was very good and apt. Very, very good. Not that is something that they said that the leader has to lead the way and that our recruitment process has to be right. But that is something that I've also noticed, which I'm going to also pose. Sometimes the leader leads the way. There's this thing we call eye service. The leader leads the way. And when he is there, everybody seems to do the right thing. But immediately the leader leaves, everybody just starts going haywire, doing the wrong things or doing their own things. But immediately the leader comes back, you see them, everybody goes to as if they are doing their duty. I'm going to ask the next among our contributors. I'm going to ask the next contributor. I also believe that we have in our midst Mr. Dele Badejo. Mr. Dele Badejo, please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Chino.
All right. Lisa, is it possible you lend your voice to this? The eye service syndrome.
Okay.
In the workplace, people come, the leader is there, leading right, getting the people to do what is right. But the moment the leader leaves, typical Nigerian factor, everybody just start doing their own thing. It's not my father's business, not my father's job. Typical language. How do we cop things like this, sir?
Thank you, Chino. I think I'll do a brief intro on myself. You've mentioned my name. I'm Dele Badejo. I'm in the oil and gas industry. I've been leading in the oil and gas industry for over 30 years, and I've been in the industry for about 36 years. You know how my industry is. Let me start by saying that what you tolerate in any organization is what becomes the standard. And every organization has got a culture. And when people join an organization, it doesn't take too long to learn what the culture in that organization is, and they adapt to that. Unless you then do something different, it is that culture that continues in that organization. So when you have a problem, as you have described, is because those who are supposed to be leading tolerated it. And the people that they brought in into the organization saw everybody doing that without accountability, and they will also continue in that way. Let me tell you, most human beings everywhere globally will do the minimum they have to do to get the maximum pay. And it doesn't matter whether it's Nigeria, it's Taiwan, India, in China. I've worked in a lot of places globally. It's the responsibility of the employer, as Wale said, to recruit the right people. For me, I recruit for character. The interview process has to be detailed and involve senior management of the organization to give people a sense of belonging. So if you've done the recruiting right and you got people who have the right character in, and then you do a good orientation for them to get them to know what they are supposed to be doing, because sometimes they just don't know what they are supposed to do. So they just bounce around like everybody else. But if they have been given the right orientation and they know what they are supposed to do, you also need to give them a buy-in into the organization. You can do all you want. If human beings don't feel there's something in need for them, they just won't do it. And that includes yourself and myself. So they have to know what is in need for them. There has to be a purpose. There have to be buy-in. You have to tick their box. There has to be something they are looking for that that organization is meeting or is going to meet. Call it whatever you want to call it, a parrot. There must be something that meets their interest. And if you have done all that, and there is still some people who are not complying, I believe that is where accountability processes have to take place. That's what I've done in my own organization, and we've been successful with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now you're talking about reward system. I believe that Wale also mentioned reward system. In other words, that we have to reward people who are for what they have done. For those who are doing right, we have to have a mechanism that rewards them. A friend of mine puts it in a different way. He says that we have to have a reward and punishment. A reward for those who are doing right and punishment for those who are doing wrong. So that when some people see those who are doing wrong, they are able, and then they see the punishment, it serves as a deterrent. And then when you see the reward system for the people doing right, it acts as an incentive. Now, I also know that we have Samira in our midst. Samira Maturocha. Can you introduce yourself, please? And what is your take in this? Can we get your take, Samira?
Thank you, Chino. Good evening, everyone. My name is Samira Maturocha. I'm currently the Chief Risk Officer and also Chief Operating Officer at Sparkle Nigeria. We are a neobank. Prior to that, I was also Chief Risk Officer and Chief Security Officer at AXA Nigeria. And before that, I also had worked with Guarantee Trust Bank for a couple of years, about 8 years or so, in risk management and sales. And yes, I am a passionate Nigerian. I'm a proud Nigerian. I'm one of those that really believes that Nigeria must not divide, literally, because I would not know which way to go, north, south, or west. My mother is Fulani, my father is Yoruba, and I'm married to an Igbo man. So very, very, very proudly Nigerian. Well, how to get people to perform in the workplace? I think the other two speakers have said a lot around, what the employer needs to do. In my experience, I'll give an example of some of the things I have experienced that I think have helped in as far as the employer is concerned, and then it's now on the employees to align with the system. When I worked with AXA bought into the company Mansard. AXA is a global group. Now in Nigeria, we have this style of promotion where, if you're familiar with promotion in the banking industry, you go from an entry level to a banking officer, and then, from banking officer maybe to assistant manager, senior, manager, and the likes. But when AXA came into the organization and started to change things, we found out that that's not how promotion is done, at that organization. Promotion is done because you take on additional responsibility. Promotion is done because you actually delivered on results and not effort. And I can tell you that it was such a culture shock and a change for a lot of, us Nigerians, because it meant that people who, for example, were expecting to be promoted simply by doing the same thing over and over would no longer have that. You literally have to take on additional responsibilities and be performing in those additional responsibilities. So it wasn't a titular promotion, it was a role promotion. It meant that you really needed to put in, the results and not just the effort to get that elevation, and for me, that was really one very, very strong and, resonating example. It left a totally different, it made me develop a different version of myself, because it meant that I needed to now sit down and create my own roadmap of how I wanted to grow, both personally and professionally. And I think that's what that sort of meritorious, incentivizing, or performance review does. A lot has been said about what the organization needs to do. And then in my point of view, from the employee's point of view, is to then, sort of like sit down and try to understand those policies, those principles of the organization, and be willing to give it your all as well, for you to then be able to reap the benefits. So this is where he who sows will reap then comes in. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Samira. That's awesome. Now, everyone has talked about incentivizing, which I believe it is important. All right. I'm also looking at the attitudinal issues with Nigerian workers. The other day we were discussing, and I was being told that there are some companies in Nigeria that would prefer hiring expatriates, especially Indians and Lebanese, to run their companies, and that they are being told that they give in more. They are more committed to their job than they are more committed to their work than Nigerians. I don't know, from the audience, please, can somebody lend a voice to this? If you want to contribute, I need contributions from the audience. Exactly on getting the workers to do the right thing in the office, to work diligently without eye service, without waiting for somebody to prompt them, to push them, but knowing that I was employed in this place to give my 100, if possible, 110%. And I don't need my boss or my head to be around for me to perform optimally. I don't know, can somebody from the audience? Okay, I'm seeing a hand. iPhone, let me see, please, Paul Ayakwele, please. Can you go ahead?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Can you hear
Paul.
me
Welcome.
clearly?
Yes. I don't know whether you got my drift or what I'm actually saying.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, we've talked about incentivizing. We've talked about punishment and the leaders of the company leading right so that the followers can follow right. And yes. I'm saying, what if all this has been done, incentive given? How do we get the Nigeria, and then you still see the Nigerians who are not doing the right thing because immediately the leader leaves, they do their own thing, and the attitude issue, which has led to us getting, some companies preferring foreigners to come and do work in a country where we have high unemployment rate. So how do we bridge this? How do we solve this issue of getting people to work and do the right thing? Please go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Brother Chino. So all the topics that have been discussed, the points that have been discussed are actually very key. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the individual. There are some things that, unfortunately, I believe are still missing in the society today. And that's why I've seen some organizations prefer to have foreigners rather than Nigerians. And what baffles me most is that if you go outside of Nigeria and then you see Nigerians performing well in other organizations, for instance, in the UK, there are some places that will prefer to hire Nigerians because Nigerians are very hardworking than their own people. So there was that gap that I tried to bridge with myself. And I realized that one of the things is complacency comes into play, right? Nigeria is a very comfortable place that when you look around and the average person is not giving their best, even those that want to give their best just relax, right? So to be honest, I don't really have an answer to this, but it's just my own observation that I've seen it that it's not like we're different, because I've seen Nigerians outside do what we're asking Nigerians to do. But it's like within the walls of this country, something is just different. Thank you, Chino.
Thank you, Paul, which is very, very true. The Nigerians who are in the UK and other parts of the world, especially who are earning hard currencies, I think the motivation is the hard currency. So when they are able to convert it to Naira and see what is going to come, they work very, very hard, which that is me saying anyway. So I'm seeing another hand upstairs. I'm seeing another hand. I'm seeing another hand. Jane Ohadike, please go ahead. Unmute yourself. Can you make a contribution? What do you think? How do we solve this? Yes.
Thank you, Chino. Good evening to everyone. And this is a very interesting topic. My name is Jane Ohadike, and my contribution is, I think the first three speakers and also the last participant that mentioned how Nigerians perform in other organizations abroad. I think a lot leans on leadership styles. There's the leadership styles of organization, of the leadership in organizations in Nigeria that doesn't necessarily, or should I say, doesn't necessarily give employees enough bandwidth to really express their capabilities. That's when they do have, the right competence. And then that's on one hand. And then on the other hand, you have employees that are actually not empowered and not allowed to really express, some of the skills that they have. I mean, I've worked in organizations where you have one leader in the same organization who has led a group of employees, and they seemed very dull. They seemed like they should be changed and fired, replaced maybe with even some of the examples you've given, like Lebanese or Chinese or wherever they're coming from. But then you find that you have a different sort of leader that comes in. And this is in my experience, you have a different leader come in. And those supposed dull employees ended up being shining stars. And this was something that happened in the space of 6 months to 12 months. So I find that the leadership style, and then also creating that enabling environment where you can empower employees and allow them to sort of like articulate the vision or the goal of the organization in their own way. I think the first speaker and as well the second speaker and third actually mentioned that sometimes you need to, imbibe what it is the organization is trying to see from your own point of view. And then when you are left alone when the leader is not there, or the boss is not there, you find that people are still engaged and they feel committed to do the work. So that's basically my 2 cents there. I hope I've offered some sort of insight and response to your question, Chino. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much, Jane. Now, let me go again. Let me put this again straight to us. The Do Right Initiative is a non-partisan, non-profit organization. Our vision is the reawakening and entrenching of uprightness in Nigeria. Our mission is simply to mobilize like-minded Nigerians who understand the fundamental changes that lawlessness and moral decadence have done to our nation and the imperative of reversing it, to join the development of a movement to initiate a rebirth, new mindset, where every Nigerian sincerely desires to do right, everywhere and every time. This is a movement, and I will reiterate again. Nobody will do it for us. Nobody will build your house for you. It is you that will build your house. A foreigner will not come and build Nigeria. It is Nigerians that will build Nigeria. Therefore, we need to all rise up at this juncture to say, yes, I want to be part of this movement, to do what is right at all times. Now, this takes me to the next question, and I'm going to ask that question direct to Mr. Dele Badejo, because from his intro, he has been in the oil sector for over 30 years, which is, wow, that is mind-blowing. And we know what has been happening in the industry. We know the current revelations going on in the industry. What am I talking about? Corruption. Corruption in the workplace. What is in need for me? That what is in need for me syndrome. You get workers and they are paid. They negotiated salaries, emoluments, and this is being paid as and when due. Yet, they will go behind to collude with contractors and suppliers to pad costs for their own benefits at the detriment of the organization that has paid them. How do we get workers to work for the organization without thinking of personal gratification, to work sincerely and diligently without thinking of personal gratification? Mr. Dele Badejo, sir,
Thank you,
I want to pose
Chino.
this to you.
Thank you, Chino. I think this is where our work as Nigerians starts. Because you cannot come to the office and be the person that you are not. You're just going to be the person you are, the person you've grown up to be before you join that organization. People will act in any situation or circumstance depending on their core values. When children are born, they born empty. And what they become in life, their character, is developed by people that are around them while they were growing up, what they are exposed to while growing up. I think I'm a bit privileged because I met the generation that took time to teach moral values to their children and also to teach moral values in schools. When I was in primary school, we had moral instructions. I don't know where all those ones are gone now. You taught values about why a good name is better than silver and gold. You taught that you cannot take what does not belong to you. And even your parents and the school will discipline you if you are to fall out of line. And your parents will not object to you being disciplined. So those were my own values I grew up with. So when I joined the industry with all the people doing everything they do, I can stand on CNN and say, if there's anybody who have given me bribe or anybody I've given bribe to in the last 35 years I've been in the industry, let the person come out. I'm certain nobody will, because there's never been any situation like that. I also run an organization that is known in the industry as being strict and rigid. It's a choice we all have to do. We can decide to be one way or the other. But the issue we have today is that we've had a generation or the two generations that have grown up without these values there. So today in Nigeria, is not uncommon to say that majority will even blame you for not taking bribe. That's how some people, families and some friends refer to my attitude or my character of not compromising my values. So that's why I think that we need to rejig, we need to retrain we need to rebuild and bring back values into our school systems, into our homes. And that's why I'm so excited that we have the Do Right movement. And I'm so privileged and happy that I'm part of this. I believe that we've already done a lot of damage. Whether we are involved in the corruption or not, it does not matter. The fact that we kept quiet, we maintained our own spots, but we forgot that what is going on around us will also come back to affect us as a nation. So in the workplace, I think there needs to be strict accountability. Where people are found to have been compromised, they need to be disciplined, and people should not tolerate it. People should get into the habit of reporting things you don't believe in and not just living it so that people don't pick on you. We need to come up and report what is not going well or what is not going right. I think if we start to do that, we will eventually get to a place where these things in the oil and gas industry will go away. But in spite of all you hear on the social media and the news media, there are still some good people in the industry who are not involved in all this. And I believe that the reason why you hear about it is because some people are reporting it. It is my earnest hope that in this, our lifetime, we will see a Nigeria that is not corrupt in all the industries, not just the oil and gas industry alone. I hope I've been able to put some light on your question, Brother Chino.
So much, sir. So very much.
Thank you.
So very much light. And I'm still going to ask Samira to also give me your take on this. I will also put a background. Some years back, there is this very huge account, juicy account in my industry that I was working for. We started working for them. But along the line, a new person came in and saw the things that we were doing, which was a new project, and then asked if we have given our cost. And I said, no. He said I should wait, that he's going to tell me what to do. I came back and I told my partner that this person looks like he's going to ask us to do what we don't normally do. And you won't believe it. What was it? He called me on a Sunday. You can imagine coming back from church. And this Oga called and said, I want you to put so amount on top your invoice per job. And we're looking at over 150 items. And he gave me that amount per job. And out of annoyance, holy anger, I told him, I said that I don't do deals. I don't do bribe. But that I always appreciate those who help me to get my job done well. But that this, I don't do. And of course, that cost us at that job, that brief, that portfolio. So this, when I shared it with somebody, he said, this is a common phenomenon. Some people said, why didn't you do it? And the people who are telling me this are, people that I will look up to. How do we get Nigerians to shun this type of behavior? Corruption in the workplace, padding of jobs in the workplace, colluding with contractors, to rip off the organization where you work for. Samira, can you lend your voice to this?
Thank you, Chino. Very, very good example that you gave. And by the way, what you demonstrated there is referred to as moral courage. And that's something that, many more of us need to practice. When we're speaking earlier, we talked about when you come into, I think it was the first speaker who said, when you come into an organization, the culture, what you see more people doing is what you sort of end up, what a lot of people align with. And it's going to take a lot of moral courage from those of us on this kind of platform, from those of us who want to see a difference, in things being done. But I'll just go back a few steps before we get to moral courage in going along the path of what a moral compass is, in knowing the difference between black and white and the various shades of gray in between, because the reality is that there are many shades of gray in between black and white, right? First of all, we need to recreate moral awareness. It may sound, easy to say moral awareness. Oh, don't people know right or wrong? But in the context of an environment that is similar to where we find ourselves in Nigeria, you will not believe sometimes how much unaware people are, in terms of that active moral awareness. Then secondly, for me, we need to create an environment that encourages people to take moral decision making, where, again, like we said earlier in the beginning, where our reward system in the places we find ourselves, is ethical. It's driven by, what is right, even in the face of, what is not right. For example, I've spoken to colleagues who tell me that, it's difficult for me to come out of an appraisal session and tell a fellow colleague who is a subordinate to them that, we couldn't promote you for XYZ reasons, right? It's a moral decision you have to make, right? Rather than being honest with that subordinate and saying, look, these are the reasons why you could not be elevated. We need you to work on this and that. People come out of that meeting and say, or come out and say, oh, so person spoke against you, or so person did not speak in your favor, but I wanted to, that comes to your own moral decision making. And that takes me to intent. You see, what is the intent? If your intent is to cower favor temporarily with your subordinate, if your intent is for a temporary gain, if your intent is not for the greater good of all, then that's a problem. So what's your moral intent at the end of the day? We need to also begin to encourage people to be clear in their minds. What is your moral intent? Finally, and lastly, when you take that moral action, which is what you did, Chino, in saying to that person, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. And that takes courage. For you to be able to take moral action, you need to own it. You need to have believed in it that, yes, this is the right thing for me to do. You need to have convinced yourself that this is also, in terms of the moral efficacy of what you're about to do, you are on the right track, you're on the right track. And then the courage to actually do that right thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Morolayo, I see your hand up in the audience. You want to make a contribution, but fast, because we are running out of time. Morolayo. A bit more, did I get it right? More, is it Morolayo? A bit more, let me say Ayo. But I'm seeing your hand up. Can you unmute yourself and make your contribution, please?
Yes, I have. Thank you so much. Yes, Morolayo is correct.
Okay.
Or you can call me Rayo, yes. It's a good contribution. It's my first time here tonight. Even though I've been getting the invites, I've not been able to connect, but I appreciate being here tonight. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm speaking on the part of being an entrepreneur, and I'm going to be sharing with you what I've suffered being an entrepreneur, relating to the discussion of tonight. I've lost so many jobs, not being given to, even the fact that I'm qualified, just because I wouldn't give them bribe. And I have so many companies because I do brand work. I'm the MD CEO to Labims Enterprises International. So we do a lot of brand work and all that, like souvenirs, T-shirts and all that. And we have other businesses as well. I've lost so many jobs with big companies because the people in charge, like the salespeople that want to do sales promotion items, like doing T-shirt, face caps and all that. And even with some other big companies in VI, because I won't give bribe. For example, I've seen situation where I've quoted for T-shirt, it's a 3,500 naira per one. And the person in charge that's supposed to give out the contract will be telling you, oh, you need to make it 6,000 for one, for it to be out. And I said, I don't do that. I can't do that. I can't join you to defraud your company. And they were like, okay, it's not about defrauding companies, it's about the people in charge. They need to see them and all that. I said, who are the people in charge? You're the one in charge. I won't join you. My ethics and my belief won't allow me to join you to defraud your company. Fine, if you give me the job, if I've done it well and I've seen my money being paid, I can personally, from my profits, appreciate you. And they will like tell you, okay, we'll get back to you, and that will be it. You won't get from them again. So things like that has made us to be just being at home, whatever you get, you get. In fact, there's another one, you do samples, you go and show them security uniforms, you get there and the people in charge, the security guy in charge to approve it, was telling me I should give him a sample, one of the samples I did, that's costing me about 28,000. And maybe the markup I'll be making from it is maybe like 2,000 naira, and you want me to give you the whole sample for free? And I said, no, because you're not doing much. The profit I'm going to be making from 6 products people are requesting for is not covering the cost of the one sample. And I was found down.
Thank you, Morolayo. Thank you, Morolayo. I get exactly what you're saying. Welcome to the world. These are exactly the things we are saying. You know, how to do right in the workplace, how to work without, you know, expecting personal gratification. Just do your work and do it conscientiously. I see another hand up, Ladio Wolabi. Briefly, for just 2 minutes, can you couch what you want to say? Your contribution,
yes, yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Very well, loud and clear.
Okay, so everyone has spoken well, but I believe the foundation is to ensure that everyone gets paid adequately. I think that's the first thing that we need to do. So if a platform like yours can push legislation for a living minimum wage, because if you pay people poorly, they will be corrupt. There's no magic wand. It's easier for our friend in the oil and gas industry. They get paid a lot, and so it's easier. I'm not saying it's impossible to still be corrupt if you're rich, but it's easier to have that moral courage that we're talking about. So if you don't pay people well, they will be corrupt. You pay your driver that you use 24/7, you pay them 25,000 a month. You pay your gate man 30,000 naira a month. It's impossible to expect them to not be corrupt. So that's the first thing. Then everyone has talked about the culture in workplaces. If it's the culture in that workplace to have a whistleblower process, to totally have a zero corruption policy and have a channel for you to report if anyone tries to compromise you, then that can go a long way as well, because it's, like I said, it's not just the poor that are corrupt. Even the rich want to gain the system, they want to make more money. So
thank you, Ladi. I get what you're saying. That is, and we have to have a sort of an adequate compensation for workers. But even that is also relative. If you ask me, what is the right remuneration to pay? You know, for somebody not outside the of other things. For somebody
that will be driven by the economic index of the country.
Exactly.
Living cost and all of that. Beautiful. But absolutely, people have to be paid more. Look at our placement on the streets. That's why they are rogues.
I understand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are running short of time because I want us to round up with this last one, which also is very, very important to me. And that is, you see something that is supposed to be done, but it is not your duty. Perhaps the person who was supposed to do it couldn't do it. But because it is not your duty, and you know that if this thing is not done, it's going to impact negatively on the organization, and you have the capacity to do it, but because it is not your duty to do, you decided to leave it. How do we get people to do the right thing at all times in the workplace? I will start with Wale. Wale, please, just within 2 minutes, can you lend your voice to this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I can call you Chino like others.
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely.
So for me, what kind of culture exists in an organization? Is it one that supports and encourages teamwork and collaboration? Or is it one that favors lone rangers and narcissists? Depending on what you practice, you get certain outcomes. But clearly,
Yes, please.
But clearly, in an organization, if we back together as a team, we will.
Please mute yourself if you're not the one on the floor. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Sorry to cut you, Wale. Please go ahead.
No problem. If we adopt a team approach, you understand, to getting things done, it will work, and we'll get everybody to buy in. It starts with the visionary and with the vision. I used to ply my trade in an organization that before they opened their doors to business, to customers, they got about their 30 foundation staff together just to envision, embrace the culture and values so that everybody knows that together we win. As a team, we accomplish this. So once we go through that process of getting everybody to imbibe the philosophy of being a team player, you know that if someone is dropping the ball, you have to cover for that person. And what you also shouldn't do is to allow a system where people are constantly not doing their jobs and other people are picking up after them. If you're not doing your job right, you're not qualified, you should be taken out. You can be trained. If you are trained and you do not also adjust or improve, you're moved somewhere else. Otherwise, you need to do away with the guys who drop the ball. But most importantly, we work together as a team, we collaborate, we share in a common vision, and we get the job done. Because at the end of the day, if 99 people do the job right, and that one person's job is lacking, you might not win the transaction or win the deal. Thank you.
Mr. Wale, thank you so much. If you don't mind, I'll call you Wale. Samira, do you want to, I can see you're smiling. Do you want to lend your voice to this? Because again, this, I started by saying that nobody's going to build your home for you. Nigeria is our country. That's this advert growing up. He said, Nigeria now we own. We must to do better for her. I grew up with that campaign. Now, how do we get our people to do good in the workplace? You know, doing what is right at all times. Somebody is dropping the ball, as Wale said. Even if it is a work culture, we have a team play work culture, but being human nature, sometimes somebody couldn't do their job and you know that you have the capacity to do it. But because it is not your place to do, you decided to leave it. And that later is going to impact negatively. How do we get people to have that mindset that when I see, if this is something I can do it without looking at anyone's, what would I call it, commendation and all that. I am doing it because it is the right thing to do. Shortly, I'm giving you 2 minutes as well.
Thank you. And yes, I totally agree with Wale. Teamwork is necessary. I also think that people need to be clear on what the vision and the goals are. Because if you have a common vision and a common goal, if people can align your vision to strategy and they can align it to what they do, I think people will act better because it is our common mission. It's our common vision because we have one true north You know, so if, for example, we all know that our common passion in an organization is just service to the customer, you see, it wouldn't matter to an employee in that organization who understands that vision and understands that service to the customer will be rewarded based on merit, meritoriously. Even though you are not in, marketing, or you're not in finance, or you're not in trade services, if you saw something that needed to be done to align with that common vision, which we are all clear on, chances are that, that kind of employee will be better empowered to be able to do something about it. So I think making a vision, sharing vision in the workplace is very, very key, and making sure that everyone really understands the goals and the objectives of the organization, so that no matter where you are, you see your contribution. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samira.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Pastor Wale. Pastor Wale, your hand is up. Pastor Wale is also the convener of this initiative. Pastor Wale, please go ahead and take the floor.
Very, very, very quick contribution. I think a lot of the time when people recruit, they're looking at hard skills. And we need to pay more attention to soft skills. We need to look for soft skills when we're recruiting people, because that's what enables teamwork. That is what that's what will win. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, sir. Again, let me put this again straight, that the Do Right Initiative is a non-partisan organization. We are non-religious, and our vision is the reawakening and entrenching of uprightness in Nigeria. Doing the right thing, getting everyone, mobilizing every Nigerian to do the right thing. Our mission simply is to mobilize like-minded Nigerians who understand the fundamental damage that lawlessness and moral decadence have done to our nation, and the imperative of reversing it, to join the development of a movement to initiate a rebirth, new mindset, where every Nigerian sincerely desires to do right everywhere and every time. This is our own contribution to building a greater Nigeria. As I said, nobody is going to build your house for you. You are going to build your house for yourself. I'm going to use this opportunity to say a big thank you to Mr. Wale, Samira, and of course, Mr. Dele Badejo, the top executive of one of the oil majors in the country, who joined this conversation this evening. And I also want to say a big thank you for the presence of the convener of this initiative, no other person than Pastor Wale Adefarasi, who has come to give us moral support. I also want to say a big thank you to my colleague, Adeswa, and Tosh, and all the other members of the Do Right Initiative. Hopefully, we are going to announce the next initiative, the next meeting, and the topic and the date. Having said that, I hope that this is going to be a reawakening to all of us of the need to build a better Nigeria, and that it is going to start with me. It is going to start with me. If you have that mindset that it is going to start with me, not with you, then we are on the right path to building a better country. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Quite
Bye.
interesting. We're waiting for the next
Bye-bye. Thank
time.
you.
Yes,
God
we'll announce
bless
it
you.
soon. Bye. God bless.
Bye. God bless.
God bless.